Because early on, if you look for power, you waste energy. Then that power evaporates. When they're tired, you ain't got the power to take.
See Joshua's next fight in the coming days, and now it looks very much like it's going to be Jake Paul, the controversial 1 round.
1 round, but if he goes past 3 rounds, we don't know what's going to happen.
Really?
If AJ does say yes to going in against Jake Paul, does he harm his legacy?
I would lose a bit of respect for him. I think a lot about.
It begins in a room that feels less like a training space and more like a sealed chamber where pressure accumulates by the second. Metal plates clatter, ropes slap the ground. The steady thud of gloves hitting pads echoes like distant artillery. In the midst of the noise stands Anthony Joshua, moving slowly enough to look calm but sharply enough to remind everyone watching that calm is merely the outward appearance of something far more dangerous beneath it. His coach murmurs instructions. 1 more. Beautiful. That's it. That's what we bring him onto. Joshua exhales through clenched teeth, resets his stance, and drives forward again. Every repetition sounds like a warning being carved into the silence between each punch. A reminder, a promise, or, to some, a threat. He moves with the heaviness of a man preparing not just for a fight, but for a reckoning. At 36, past the turbulent middle chapter of his career, but nowhere near washed, he carries the weight of expectations like armor. His team studies not just his punches, but his evolution, how his physique has sharpened again, how his conditioning has deepened, how his understanding of movement has matured. They speak not about rebuilding him, but about refining him into something colder and more surgical than the towering athlete the world first met. To them, Joshua isn't preparing for Jake Paul. He is preparing to erase him. Across the ocean, in a different gym that vibrates under bright lights and social media energy, Jake Paul trains too. His movements are sharp, explosive, aggressive. His team shout encouragement. Cameras sweep in tight, and every beat of sweat resembles a narrative being constructed in real time. Paul has been dismissed before, by purists, by professionals, by anyone who believed the sport of boxing should remain untouched by influencers. Yet each time he survived, each time he's returned, each time he's made the world watch. But this time is different. This time is not another test. This time is not another moment where he enters the ring as the underdog with a puncher's chance. This time the gap between ambition and reality stretches so wide it threatens to swallow the entire spectacle whole. Joshua's camp does not look at Paul with contempt. They look at him with a colder truth. He is not prepared. He cannot be prepared. There is no training montage that can simulate the reality of standing across from a heavyweight who has knocked out world champions. There is no drill that can replicate the sensation of absorbing power thrown by a man who has spent a decade fighting under the brightest, harshest lights boxing can offer. Yet Joshua trains anyway, not because he believes he needs to, but because he believes even mismatches demand discipline. He works the timing of his punches, focusing on the rhythm more than the force, because force is something he has never lacked. Relax, his coach says. Don't go searching for power. Let it come. Let it breathe. Energy wasted early is power gone late. Joshua nods, letting the advice settle deep. He knows the truth. Against someone like Jake Paul, he won't need a late round. But beneath the training, beneath the stoic discipline, something else is brewing. A storm built from frustration, lost opportunities, and the relentless demands of sport. Joshua has been chasing redemption ever since the world turned its back on him after his losses. Every fight since then has been a war not only with opponents, but with his own legacy. And now, suddenly, the world expecting to fight a man whose resume, in comparison, is little more than glitter taped to cardboard. A man whose greatest victories came from ambition rather than pedigree. That contrast alone stirs something heavy in Joshua, something that will have no mercy the night the bell rings. Eddie Hearn, caught between the morality of boxing and the reality of the business that underpins it, explains the truth as plainly as he dare. This is prize fighting, and prize fighting has always been about the prize. Joshua has seen it all, won it all, lost it all, and rebuilt himself. He has nothing left to prove to boxing except what he desires to prove. And when 70 million pounds appear on the table, more than some champions earn in a lifetime, the calculation shifts. Gone are the questions about dignity. Gone are the debates about prestige. At some point, the numbers become too large to ignore. Hearn admits he never quite believed Jake Paul wanted this fight. The idea felt too absurd, too reckless, too cinematic. But as talks progressed, the absurdity turned into a real offer, and the real offer turned into something far more tempting than the 8-round stay-busy fight Joshua was scheduled to take. "I can't see how we turn it down," Hearn says, not with arrogance, but with the kind of resignation only boxing can inspire. Because boxing has always lived in the space between what is outrageous and what is inevitable. Yet the experts do not hide their discomfort. They speak about Joshua's resume as though reading a list of violent monuments. Klitschko, Ruiz, Parker, Usyk, White, Povetkin. These men shaped Joshua, scarred him, tested him, humbled him. They hardened his resolve into something Jake Paul has never encountered, even in his bravest moments. No matter how fit Paul is, no matter how disciplined his training camp becomes, he has not walked through fire like the men who shaped Joshua's career. Those analysts puncture the narrative of Paul's bravery with a harsher perspective. Experience is not merely a number. It is trauma endured. It is storms weathered. It is knowing what happens when the lights brighten and the stakes rise beyond comfort. One commentator says every competitive fight Joshua has taken has cost him something. Not his skill, not his career, but fragments of himself. The kind fighters give up in exchange for greatness. But this fight, he says, could return something. The spectacle alone, the dominance, the ease, the statement it makes. These things could rebuild Joshua's confidence in ways the cautious matchmaking of recent years has not. A brutal, unquestioned demolition could steel him for Tyson Fury, should that long-teased fight finally materialize. A savage victory could light the spark again. But not everyone sees opportunity. Many see danger. Adam Catterall is among the loudest, calling it irresponsible to sanction. He calls it dangerous, almost grotesque, to allow a fight between a 2-time heavyweight champion and a man who has never fought anyone remotely comparable. He reminds the world of what Joshua's punch can do, what any heavyweight's punch can do, and what Jake Paul has never experienced. For Catterall, this is not sport, but hazard masquerading as entertainment. Commission cannot sanction that, he says. This cannot be a legitimate fight. His fear isn't theatrical. It's grounded in understanding. Heavyweights are a different species, and Jake Paul is not one of them. Still, the money swirls, the headlines grow, and the disappointment of another failed Fury fight hangs in the air like a ghost. Fans who have waited years for Joshua versus Fury watch as Joshua and Paul move closer to signing a contract. Some feel betrayed. Some feel exhausted. Many simply feel that this is a direction boxing has drifted, away from purity into chaos. The sport often chooses money over legacy, spectacle over tradition, business over desire. And while that truth may hurt, it is a truth fans have accepted long before Jake Paul ever put on a glove. Derek Chisora, a man who has shared rings with giants and walked through fires few would dare, dismisses a matchup entirely. To him, it's not just a mismatch. It's a mismatch bordering on cruelty. 1 round, he says. If it goes past 3, people will ask what he's doing. Chisora laughs, but beneath the laughter lies a darker truth. He has seen firsthand what a heavyweight's punch does to the unprepared. And he understands that entertainment can sometimes blind people to the risks that live inside the ring. Then comes Tommy Fury, the man who already beat Jake Paul. He approaches the topic with brutal amusement. He says if he, Tommy Fury, could beat Jake Paul, then Anthony Joshua would destroy him in ways words feel inadequate to describe. His father's crude comment becomes part of the lore, but Tommy stands firmly behind it. He calls the fight ludicrous, unsafe, absurd. The kind of match that could only exist in the strange new world boxing has wandered into. And Tommy, despite his criticism, knows what everyone else does. The world will watch anyway. The debate grows fiercer, darker. People begin asking whether Joshua should even take such a fight, whether destroying Jake Paul is worth the risk of a freak accident, a clipped punch, or the tarnish of engaging in spectacle. Some say Joshua risks a piece of his legacy. Others argue legacy no longer feeds families. In the sport of boxing, they remind us belts do not pay mortgages. Opportunities do. Paydays do. David Haye, voice calm but eyes sharp, reminds the world of something crucial. Boxing is unpredictable. Anything can happen. Upsets occur not because they make sense, but because boxing often defies logic. But even Haye, the diplomat among them, cannot imagine a world where Jake Paul survives the kind of power Joshua delivers with casual ease. I can't see any way he wins, Haye admits, acknowledging that courage and self-belief, though admirable, cannot bend physics. Still, he adds a warning. Joshua must remain disciplined, because arrogance is a dangerous currency in the ring, and overlooking an opponent, no matter how unlikely the threat, has shaped some of boxing's greatest tragedies. Joshua, he says, cannot treat this like a victory already written. He must treat it like any other fight. Focused, controlled, ready. And as that message echoes, the date approaches. The lights draw nearer. The world leans closer. And the narrative tightens like the winding of a clock before the hour strikes. Anthony Joshua continues training with that dangerous serenity, each punch thrown with the calm violence of a man who knows exactly what he's capable of. Jake Paul continues preparing as well, pushing himself harder than he ever has, perhaps knowing or perhaps refusing to know that he is training not against another influencer, not against another crossover fighter, but against a genuine heavyweight executioner. The air around this fight becomes heavy, electric, uneasy. It carries different meanings for different people. For Joshua, it is a payday, a statement, a release. For Paul, it is the most daring leap of his life, a leap that could either immortalize him or break him. For fans, it is a spectacle too absurd to ignore. For critics, it is a potential disaster wrapped in neon lights. For boxing itself, it is a test, a mirror, perhaps a warning. And yet for all the noise, all the arguments, all the warnings and predictions, one question hangs heavier than anything else. What happens when Jake Paul stands across from Anthony Joshua and the bell actually rings? What happens when the lights dim, the crowd roars, the cameras lock in, and a man who built his boxing career from internet influence faces a man who built his from blood and sacrifice? What happens when a heavyweight, with all the force physics allows, throws a punch at a cruiserweight whose body has never absorbed such power? What happens when confidence collides with reality? It could be violent. It could be brief. It could be a spectacle that lives in infamy. Or it could be a moment that marks the beginning of an unexpected new chapter in boxing's chaotic evolution. But whatever happens, whatever the outcome, whatever the fallout, one truth remains constant. When the bell rings and these two worlds meet in a single ring under a single set of lights, everything else disappears. And the only thing that matters is a truth delivered by the fists of two men who chose to walk into danger for reasons the world will debate long after the final punch lands.